Hey, what's up? I'm Andrew Kramer, and I'm a visual effects artist and director. Recently, I had a chance to work on a really fun project with a lot of 3D animation and After Effects. And in my Max presentation, I show you some of the process on how we created it, and I hope you have a great time watching it. Thanks a lot.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Andrew Kramer, and hopefully we'll have some fun today. I'm a visual effects artist, and I also do some directing on commercials and do some motion graphics. Real quick question, how many of you are like After Effects users? Oh, this is going to be good. Not for me. But this is good. So what is After Effects? No, I'm kidding. So some of you may know a little bit about what we do, and I think they're recording it, and hopefully, instead of me explaining what we do at Video Copilot, I could play just a quick video. So, if you'll indulge me, here we go.
Presentation.
Hey, what's up, guys? Andrew Kramer here, and welcome to another very exciting show. Today, we're going to be taking a look at creating some stock elements that are extremely hard to create in the computer. And the cool thing about these elements is that we can use them for anything. Motion graphics, visual effects. There's a really cool show on Netflix called Stranger Things, and they did some awesome work with practical effects. But we wanted to try to do something original, and even though that show is really popular and successful, we didn't want to just rip them off. We wanted to try to recreate some kind of alien or monster skin. Now the trick, of course, is to find the right ingredients that have the right texture, the right viscosity. Think about Jurassic Park, the dinosaur that's shooting out the acid. Or you take a movie like Alien, and he's covered in all this goo. Or look at a movie like Ghostbusters with the slime that's everywhere. Now, unfortunately, finding the right ingredient turned out to be more difficult than we expected. Let's see what we have. We've got some Nutella, we've got some mozzarella, we've got some marshmallows, KY Ultra Gel Personal Lubricant, some snack packs. This product is not a contraceptive. Some honey, keep out root shows, avoid contact with the eyes. Some other cheese, slippery, avoid spills. They put that at the bottom. That's the most dangerous. Let's go and start with these marshmallows. We'll take a few of these, stick them in a bowl, put them in the microwave, and let's see what happens. All right, fresh out of the microwave, and that's delicious. So the cool thing about this is it's like ready to go. You can already see the way that it branches off. It's really, really good. That's KY. Okay, all right, let's go grab the camera. We're gonna bring this down, and I'm just gonna take a little bit onto this platform and try to scoop it out of here. Hold down and just lift it up and sort of stretch it out. Now, the marshmallows definitely created the best results, unlike some of the other ingredients that just seem to make a mess. But there was still one substance we had to try. let's get down to business. This is industrial slime, the kind of stuff they use on movie sets, and as far as I can tell, should be illegal. Once we started to experiment with different mixtures and color dyes, we began to develop some amazing results. Now, to make your life easier, we created a free pack of elements that you can use in your own work. They're great for motion graphics, set design, and even help to bring your creatures to life. The key is experimentation. Play around with transfer modes and even use mesh warp to bend them around your scene. You'll have a blast.
What the hell's going on? I mean, what the hell is going on?
All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm Andrew Kramer. Be sure to check out the website, videocopilot.net. We're going to put up a lot of these assets for you to download and put them into your own project. So have fun, and we will see you next time. You know what? I get sick of these 80s movies. Look at this sweater. Layers of jackets. Handlebars.
Thank you. A lot of fun. I don't recommend it. Now, I've been lucky in this industry to work on a lot of really fun projects, aside from that one. And there's something that you always run across, right? The inevitable, right? Death. No. It's actually worse than that. Deadlines. You know about this. And so I was thinking about deadlines, and I was thinking, well, what does it really do, right? So you ever work on a project, and the client's like, hey, we'd like to see the progress. You're like, oh, computers are on fire, everyone's running around. And they're like, what was that? It's like, oh, the team's fired up. It's all good. And tomorrow, yeah, of course, right? And so you have to then look at what you're working on and say, okay, how do I pull it all together into a way, because everything's work in progress until you have to show it to someone, and that becomes a version that is looked at and analyzed, and a lot of doubt creeps in, all those fun things that happen in that first. You send the email, right? You say, hey, couple, what do you call it, exclamation marks, and you say, now, keep in mind, the music is temporary, oh, the background is temporary, oh, and this model is going to be replaced, and we're going to fix that, and don't even worry about anything, it's all good, check it out. You send it off, and you're like, it's been a week. I haven't heard back. Ghosted by your own client. But, okay, you regroup, right? You get some notes back. You say, all right, what are we going to do here? That is a place, it's hard, right? That first sort of okay, where do we stand, right? Especially when you're working with new clients and things like that. But that's such a great moment to figure out where you're at. And you could say, all right, we polished it up to that point. Now we know where our baseline is. And now we can take the notes and we can say, all right, let's iterate. Let's improve on this. And if anyone knows the way they create Pixar movies and things where they'll sort of try out jokes and animate and they iterate and they, what if we move the story around? They have that sort of flexibility to figure out the formula that works. Well, what is it really? It's just a way to try things out more. So today I want to talk about how we can challenge ourselves to elevate and basically go further with our skills in the same amount of time. And so what does that mean? There's a director that I really admire, Chris McQuarrie. He directed a couple of the recent Mission Impossible movies. And his team, the film editor, his name escapes me at the moment, but what they will do towards the end of production is they will edit the movie every single week, put it in front of an audience on Friday, do the notes, test audience stuff, take the notes, go back, change some things, update it, move a scene around, fix the music, fix the sounds, publish it, bam, Friday, screen it again. And they'll screen it for many, many weeks up until basically there are no more weeks left to do that. And it's not just about just going crazy and just trying things. It's about micro changes that are on that pathway to improvement. You go down and you say, oh, we tried moving that scene here, but it didn't really work out. We moved it over here. And I just love that idea. I mean, a movie is such a, it's a collective experience when you watch it. Like, you have the audience, and, obviously everyone has their own opinion of movies, but the more people that like a movie, the better the movie. Listen, you guys know what a box office is? No. But I just thought that was such a fascinating way to work, where you're really working towards that goal. And we had a chance to do that same thing on a couple of recent projects. And maybe we'll take a look here. I'm going to be using Premiere because I want to jump around and demo some stuff. So it's a little unconventional, but it wasn't too bad in the last presentation. So this is our goal here. Now, maybe we'll play this video first. So I got a chance to work on this project for THX, and I directed it and did a lot of the animation, but I could not possibly have even come close to it without an awesome team of so many different creatively talented people. And I'm talking people in so many different areas, which that's the secret, is finding people that are good at things that you're not good at. And so this is the project that we delivered, so let's check it out. Thank you. It's awesome. This is awesome. So, so where do you begin? If I had watched this, not too many years ago, I would have just been where do you even begin to plan out something with so many layers and things like that? With Video Copilot, we try to do something where we show you how something is done so that you can see that everything isn't that complicated, right? It's a lot of little tasks. Okay, a couple of fractal noises, we switch it up, we mix it up. It's these little formulas that you mix together that you create something. And even with a big project like this, you can break it down and try to figure out what it is you need. So you need that idea. And there's a funny story. So I was working at Bad Robot, and it was the first movie I ever worked on, called Super 8. There's little Easter eggs in there. And the director, J.J. Abrams, said, hey, Andrew, we're putting together this sizzle reel for the studio. We want to show them, the movie's coming along. Hey, can you take one of these visual effects shots and maybe... And so what it was is a shot of these kids on the hill looking out to a train that had crashed along this green mountainside, right? And, of course, the shot was just kids looking at an empty mountain. So, hey, Andrew, can you do this visual effects shot? Come on. So I went on Google, right? Train crashing. Shocking stuff. But no, so what I did is I found some train crash, some dirt elements, I even got like a model of a train car that I kind of like put a little, but it was like matte painting, kind of Photoshop, just kind of smashed it all in there, and like I thought it looked pretty good. So I comp it in, use the green mountain to key out the kids, boom, 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 light wrap. Send it over, I'm like, they're like, thanks. Don't mention it. So then, the movie comes out. Now the shot was done by this studio called ILM. You guys ever heard of these people? They're pretty good, right? I'm gonna have to admit. So ILM actually ended up doing the final shot, right? And so like I'm at the movie, watching it, I see that shot come up, and like, it was awesome. It was way better than what I did. Like mine, I was embarrassed to have done it. So their shot, get this. They have like helicopters flying on, kicking up the dust on the ground, like emergency people, digging and like holes and like, and I was thinking, I blew my one chance, right, to like make a cool movie shot. But then I stepped back and I was like, okay, why is this shot better than mine? Like I could do that. I could get a helicopter model and I can hire somebody to like be on a green screen, walk around and maybe film my friends, and like I could have done it, but I didn't start with an idea or a big picture. I just sort of started kind of shoving things together. And sometimes you can create really cool things that way. But if you have a more structured idea on how, like, what is the ultimate version of your vision, and have a plan on how you can accomplish that, then you won't look like me, like a fool. No. You get my point. Actually, funny thing is, on this THX project, we have like an early animatic of some of the camera animations, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely, I'm sure that like some doubt was creeping in when they watched this. All right, let's check it out. Okay, it just gets worse after that. So, you get the idea, right? It was helpful, right? It was helpful to get a sense of what the camera was going to be doing and like what the idea was, and to convey it to everybody. There was some, like this, for example, we call this in the business a cross dissolve. Some industry lingo for you. So as I was talking about earlier, right, like when you're working on a big project, you've got to break it down into the components. And what we did was we said, okay, what is going to be the most challenging aspect of the project? What is our team good at? Where should we put our resources? So the first thing we thought was this character, this dragonfly. Like I don't know anything about character design or character animation, in 3D. So the first thing was, let's get going on the character, because this was going to be like a hero moment. That's like the iconic first thing that we see. So how do we get that figured out? And so first thing we did is went to YouTube, started doing some research. Check this out. And we're all very surprised at like how the wings are very like floppy, and like it's not exactly how you would imagine. And in the beginning of our shot, we obviously we take some creative freedom, but we wanted it to be in slow motion. And that's kind of a bit of a challenge, because there's always that blend. These are some early animation tests, that you want something to be realistic, but you also have timing and the camera move, and you have a sort of like moment to create. And so you start with, okay, what is the ground truth? What does it look like in real life? And then these are just some versions of it as we tried some different things. We ended up speeding it up just to kind of get that moment across. And then obviously the animation, all of a sudden you put the animation in the camera and you're like, this doesn't look right anymore. Like every little, like the way the legs kind of retract and all those fun little details. And think, is there Fabian, shout out to him. He did this water drop effect simulation, which, you know, somebody, like, okay, so these are, I always try to figure out, like, what are the problems you're solving that you didn't expect, right? Like, so, like, you look at the original version, and, like, we're kind of, like, we're like, yeah, we'll transition through, like, the eyes of this dragonfly, and it's like, what, are we making a nightmare? So, you start thinking, maybe this isn't, you know, this isn't the right way to approach this. And so we're doing some deep research on Pinterest, and there's these photos of, like, dragonflies that are, like, in some swamps, and they're just chilling. I don't have the reference here, but they actually are just so still that, like, the condensation from just the watery swamps start, like, creating these little water drops. And in fact, dragonflies are so small that the water drops, all right, someone told me this, I'm going to try to explain it. You guys know what surface tension is, right? So essentially the water drops are so small, and there's not enough surface tension for them to actually, like, bubble down on the surface, that they actually sit up like little mini crystal balls, like, on top of the surface. So you're like, I want this to be exactly like real life, you know, and then you're like, you know what, I don't like that breed of dragonfly, the camo, let's change it to something else we like. Listen, hyperrealism, realism, we take a little creative freedom here and there. So yeah, here was just for fun. Here's just, like, the rough animatic, and shout out to Micho and Ben, the producers on it, and they just, I remember they're explaining the transitions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard. But there's always a fun point to have an idea and just begin to get it out in the world, right? Like, I think as creative people, we know how it's going to be. It's going to be great, you know, just wait. You know? But you got to put it into the world, and especially with a big team. And this is something I learned a lot. Like, it's so easy to give advice after you, like, totally screwed it all up and had a hard time, and you're like, no, what I should have done is what I'm going to tell you guys. But working with teams where you figure out what those ideas are, what those strengths are, and you know, finding people that are really talented, like, it was fun, and definitely helped me figure out my weaknesses and challenge me to learn Cinema 4D more and really get in there. And, like, it was honestly, like, it was exciting. It was exciting to be, oh, well, I wonder if we can do this. And I'm searching, like, Cinema 4D tutorials, and there's, like, rigging, and, like, it was a really great experience in that sense. Here's another big challenge just to talk about here real quick. So the whole thing is a single camera that goes through about 5 or 6 different scenes. But the camera is fluid throughout the whole thing, right? So if you make a change to this moment, that could affect the animation of the previous scene. And so every time, like, oh, can we speed that up or slow it down? You're just like, you know, you're like Spider-Man, like, holding together the whole thing, because you're shifting around so much, and if the camera's faster, it misses that moment, and now you have to reanimate that. So picture this. You change this. Oh, no, unintended consequences. We'll fix that. Oh, no. Something like that. Now, it did remind me that my first title sequence that I ever worked on was for the show called Fringe. And, yeah, all right, cool. Just for fun, I'm going to play it, but, like, it was, the idea I remember on that was creating a single seamless moment. So, like, the skills you learn along the way that all sort of, like, culminate on the next thing that you're always pushing forward. So here's a little throwback. Wait, I think some motion blur samples were, you know what, look. Let's not dig up the past, my friends. Onward and upward. Now, speaking of plans, speaking of figuring out, you know, big projects, The key on this project, I would say, that was the most difficult thing and the thing we were doing all the way up until the end, that was these transitions. So picture this, you have, well, tell you what, I'll just show you. So we just watched the film. I'm going to show you the film without the transitions and just the raw renders from the 3D packages. So we use Cinema 4D, by the way. Okay, so not getting into all of the specifics of why every scene exists in the way that it does, I'll give you a few ideas on it. So in this scene, we use Cinema 4D with Octane Render, which does an amazing job with like subsurface scattering and like nature rendering, and the quality was really, really cool. Now, for the city scene, it was huge, and we needed, just some memory problems were happening, and so we used Redshift. Now, both of these scenes have different scene scale, right? So in order to transition them together, we knew, okay, we're going to have to do some kind of sleight of hand. So we basically roughly got it to the point where it was, close, right? Where we're sort of kind of turning, going on, and now we're kind of turning and coming out. Now, if I just jump over to After Effects, I can kind of break this down. Let's dive in. I'm going to cut that from my presentation tomorrow. Kidding. Okay, here is a basic setup of that same scene, right? So it's transparent on top as we dive through and then past these water drops, and then we come out back on the top. Now, a shot like this, we used a lot of reference. So like underwater reference, like, okay, what does it look like? We wanted it to be somewhat realistic. But the thing is, it's actually very simple. We basically have two cards, two sort of displaced planes. And I just have like a cylinder in the background just to sort of block out the back so that the fog can just end at a certain point. Just little things like that. No one should ever see your projects that you work on. But one interesting thing actually here, let me just throw a different shader on all of this really quick. One interesting thing about it is that you can see it's got a bit of displacement on it, but not on the back. And the importance of that, or at least early on, was to have a vanishing point that didn't get distorted, because we wanted like a nice soft fall off. So we actually used Cinema 4D with a field, and the field just blended it away so that it would be distorted here and then just straight on the back, and just brought it in. And the reason that we separated the water surfaces from the water drops, so here's the top layer here. It's a Sprite commercial. So here we just have sort of the water drop, and you just create a few different ones, different little shades here and there. And the problem was, how fast do you think the camera has to be going to travel through a plane and still see it slide past the camera? Very, very slowly. So as the camera starts pulling back, it needs to come down to almost a stop, only like a pixel per second or something like that. It's just barely moving. So for that main reason, we couldn't really do it in cinema because it would be too hard to ramp the camera down and still be like, this is something that I've learned a lot more. You guys ever see like the 12 principles of animation, where it's like character animation tips, where like if a character is, I'm going to act this out on a video. This is it. This is my life. is like you have a character and the character punches another character, right? But like in a cartoon, it's like, and then he punches him, or he does, and then he, like there's that preemptive motion that lets the audience follow what's happening. And there's things like follow through and some of the physics of it, so like the character's hair kind of bobs as it goes. And there's a process of animating a character using these principles, and it's super fascinating. But completely unrelated to what we do, what we think we do, but it's totally connected. So in this case, we needed to come down and fling back up. Now it's like, you could have perfect ease keyframes, but it wouldn't feel like, it wouldn't have that crescendo of kind of rising. And so we actually cheated it a little bit. So if I look at this really quick, you can see I have a little bit more of the Element 3D water on top of the base water. And the reason for that is the speed of the plane is different from the real shot and my fake water that's on top. So I'll explain it this way. So the water that's in the foreground is actually moving slower than the water in the background so that the camera has time to rise up above it, and you get that nice moment of like racking focus across the top of the surface, a little bit of like chromatic distortion on the front, basically. So that was just a moment you wanted the audience to like feel that sort of glistening water, and to do it in real life, it just wasn't, it would just be too hard because the camera's got to move up so fast to get up to the height of the helicopter, and yet you're still wanting to like register that water. So when I think of the principles of animation, I think about cheating, like you're sort of, you compare like live action to animated, and the things that can register in an animation in like 1 second versus pulling that off in live action, it's no comparison. Animation can do so many subtle things that your mind registers that's very difficult to do in live action. So applying those principles to, hyper-realistic CG stuff, I think is as someone who's done it, I think it's a great idea. Let's see what else here. Oh, and just the last point on this is because they're separate layers, what I can do is I can use the camera cutoff. And so changing the camera cutoff changes the perceived speed that we travel through the plane. So if it's further away, it doesn't seem so fast. You don't get that kind of like wide angle look, but at least it helps it register. And I actually think in the final version I had animated it because I wanted to dip down real close, but then when I came up, we're starting at a macro level, right? So the camera's a little tighter and we're a little closer. Now when we come out, we're a bit wider. So having a little bit more space to sort of see the water coming up, going from a macro level to like a big lake size, bay size, it was important that we did this in comp so that we could creatively choose those decisions. Which brings me to my next choice, which was this helicopter, which we did in Element 3D. There's a few reasons for that. One, it's a complicated thing to finesse, right? And the render for the city took about 20 hours on this like farm system. And listen, if you're like, hey, what would be better if it was a different helicopter? You're like, listen, I really like this helicopter. So those kind of decisions where, it's not just like the choice, but things like the finesse of the helicopter you can tweak in After Effects and get the feeling right. What about think about the lighting of this moment. You're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's going to be pretty dark, but the helicopter is supposed to be like this hero element that's glistening and like you're really focused on it. So having a separate environment map and lighting scheme just for the helicopter separately that's editable in the comp, when we go back to some of the versions that we thought were good, we're like, oh my goodness. Listen, it's all about iterating. Only the best version is the last version because you ran out of time. What else? Let's see here. This is kind of cool, So check this out. We're kind of pulling back and, all right. So this scene, separate scene, redshift scene. We didn't want to do that thing where you sort of cheat the transitions, right? Where you just kind of fade it or you cheat it or, you know, a little camera shake, a little lens. Look, I don't recommend it, but we've all done it. But we tried hard not to do that. So what we ended up doing is overlapping the renders so that and we created a map for the window so that when we pulled out, we would still be able to see roughly the inside for as long as possible, that, you know, as long as it would take for you to change your focus to the rest of what is going on. And, you know, obviously it like doubles your render just to have a little bit of it in the window, but listen, we're dedicated. This is kind of fun. I used shout out to Orb in the background there, the Earth. Like, no joke, I went into the project I made. So we have this plugin called Orb. It's for like making spherical PBR effects, and you can do like planets. And we did this tutorial for the Earth. And to kind of give it scale, I mean, I dug up the old project. Listen, I changed a few things, you know, and just rendered out in 8K. You know what I actually did to get this to work? Is I used the VR tools in After Effects. Any you guys ever seen these? It's basically, oh, you guys know what an equirectangular is? It's like a 360 image that gets wrapped around a sphere. So what I did is I took the orb, created the planet, and then rendered like an 8K equirectangular so that this actually is rendered into the texture space of this environment. So in other words, it's as if I went to space, took a 360 camera view of the Earth in the background, and then put that into the background of my docking bay ship scene. So that's the worst explanation I've ever heard. That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, you know, again, things like layering the ship so that you can do the light speed effect with particles and do it up. You know, you're just looking for ways to, like, how much better does your work get in the end in the comp, right? You're in the comp, you're saying, okay, I always say compositors have the hardest job because someone's working on the 3D. And they're like, okay, here's the, oh, wait. So there's a change, we got to fix the tentacles and do the thing. Okay. All right, oh, here, wait. Okay, here it is. You have 30 minutes. It's like whoever's at the end of the post-production pipeline always gets sort of that shrinking time. And that's why it's good to sort of like have these plans of how you're going to composite these elements. And, you know, the more layering, I mean, in fact, to sort of, so check this out. Look at the sort of the back of the ship here. So this is actually an Element 3D implant. Is that, I don't know, what do you call this? It's just a piece of geometry, a kit bash piece of geometry that was layered in on top of the exhaust just to give it a little bit more complexity and have an animated texture that would, I guess, fuel the rev up sound of this moment of this, you know. And so what we did was we rendered, we brought the ship into Element, used it as a matte shadow, built the piece, put it on there, it occludes perfectly, matched the lighting so that it could be replaced. And the reason is that ship, look how many polygons. It's a huge comp. The time on that, again, it's like a 20-hour render, and just so you can, you know, make it look a little bit better, maybe it's not worth it. So, boom, do a little After Effects 3D. We did that throughout, actually. Just some little things that just needed some polish. Like here's another scene where, just to look at the raw render, it's just like a bunch of junk everywhere. Like, you think about it, 3D, you don't have to model everything. Like, you build the scene, you animate it. What does the camera see? That's all you have to focus on, for the most part. You don't have to model the other side of the ship or, you know, the other side of the letters. And not just because you're lazy. Because your scene really gets large, the polygons, you know. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, I was talking a little bit about like character animation, and have you guys heard of this website called Mixamo? Right? It's basically this website where you can upload your rigged models or unrigged models, and it'll create a character rig around that character. So like I have a little example of this. Space guy model. Like, we did that in about 3 hours. You find a good model, and you just go over to Mixamo, something like this. You upload it. Shout out to Jake for prepping all this. You like choose a few joints, some bones, and then you can like choose between random like animation types, and you can do a lot of like awesome things like this. I mean, listen. So you guys know I like to, really dive into After Effects, and maybe I'll just talk while this plays. It's just some random stuff here. But I love the idea of not using, extra plugins and just kind of looking around, seeing what's there. And what I think it's done for me personally is giving me a better understanding of procedural creation of effects. So when I go into, say, Cinema 4D and I'm creating a shader or something, I understand what you can do with the maps because I kind of understand how it works in After Effects. Like if you look at this example, which was this crazy scene, right? In After Effects, there's this like hair plugin. It's like this cartoon hair plugin. It's kind of silly, and it can work with the alpha channel. So I just created this like rock texture and created like cracks, and then I used those cracks to basically emit little bits of hair, and then the hair, I was like, well, what about some moss? And then you put a little procedural noise on that, and then you make the moss, and this was just all in After Effects, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? But then I realized it helped me at some point in the future, undetermined. No. Don't ever feel like you're learning something and it's not going to help you. Like, if you have a purpose on what you want to learn, in all seriousness, when I was working on something and I would have a little bit of a sense of how something works, it helped me so much, like on something I didn't expect to come along. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know how to deal with that. And that's the secret, right? When you're doing a big project like this, it's not the totality of everything that you end up with. It's those little components. Like I did a tutorial maybe like 10 years ago called The Orb, believe it or not. I don't have the internet, but it was basically this like, it just looked like a little Christmas ball, right? And some like particles in it and stuff like that. And here we are, 10 years later, bringing it back. I dug up the old project, bam. No. Couldn't find it, so I had to redo it. Here's another cool. Do you guys know what VDBs are? Volume files, volumetrics? All right. It's a fun little thing here. Okay, so we're working on a new plugin. So one of the things that we do at Video Copilot is like we get to work on these really cool projects occasionally, and we also develop plugins and things like that. And my favorite thing in the world is having a problem, going to our dev team and saying, hey, can we do this or can we do that? And they're just like, imagine them with like lab coats on. It's like, mm-hmm. And a few days go by, whatever, and then they're like, hey, check out this build of this like plugin. It's called like, some code name. And you play it, and we started with this volumetric plugin, and I remember I was blown away. It's my favorite thing. Like, I love the technology and the art and how those two things come together, and to work with these guys, they're amazing. So let me show you a little of something we've been working on and give you a sense of, I don't know, what's coming. Let's see. Maybe a lot of 3D. So what I could do, I'm going to create a camera. I'm going to create a light. It's spotlight. And so what this plugin does is creates volumetric light. Okay, that's okay. It's okay. Let's see if we can do something else. So what if we increase like the noise a bit? So now we have 3D volumetric noise. And that's nice. Maybe we could add like some light rays, you know, like with a projection node. And now we've got 3D volumetric rays that can be combined. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this because it's a real 3D effect. So for example, on the THX project, we rendered out the bay. We rendered out with the Z depth pass, right? So you guys have seen this perhaps, something like this. And it basically just measures the distance from the camera. And we can use that information to occlude lights that we add in After Effects. So let's see what that looks like. So I have a light here, and I can move it around, and you can see that it's occluding. I can move it around. Now, what's the point of this? Like, what good is this, right? We could do this in 3D. Well, what's nice about it is it's a comp level effect. And this is something, again, I've talked about it. I love being able to say, hey, you know that pillar on the right, it's kind of getting dark with everything. Maybe we could pop it out a little bit. And, you know, just like maybe you might do in Photoshop, you could put a little backlight on it, let's say. And now we're focusing your attention a little bit more on that. Maybe we could duplicate the light and we could push this a little bit further back, and maybe we make this one pop out a little bit. So the idea is, you know, once something's rendered, how much more can we do to it to polish it up? Right? The camera's moving past. We've all seen movies. I've seen movies where they color correct the character for the entire scene, right? Whatever, it's just not popping, or the lighting wasn't quite right on the day, and they just mask the character and they color correct it. I'm sure for every commercial, there's spot masks around every little thing. And that is because everything needs, you know, the attention to what you're looking at needs to be clear, and whether you use contrast or motion or whatever to bring attention to that, that's what this tool allows you to do, and something we were lucky to be able to use it even on the very beginning of the shot with this sort of like galaxy moment here. Maybe I could show one more example here. Let's see. Trying to think where all this stuff is. Let's see. How about how about just like a cloud? So I've imported this VDB. Let me turn off the projection. Now I have a volumetric cloud that I can, just like a 3D object, I can move it around and place it into the scene. I can do the same thing with multiple lights, and maybe and I mean, there's just some other fun things that we've thought about for compositors. Like, you're at the compositing stage. What if you want to cut it in half, or you want to mask it? So we have things like object fields, which in this case we have like a sphere, and you basically, like a Boolean, you can sort of crop it out. And maybe on this light we could add something like a flicker, and now we have a little bit of motion going on. So to be able to bring this to the compositing stage, we're super excited about it. We're not totally done with it, but just thought I'd show some of the progress. This reminds me of one more thing. In the opening shot here, the original idea was we we pan down from this like epic like sky, like slow shutter shot, and then the sun rises up as we pull down to the mountains. And as far as volumetrics, to point out too, what an interesting thing is with this sort of like aurora effect, I just animated a point light that was blue to just move down through the clouds, just to sort of give it a little bit of interactivity right there. But anyway, back to the concept of the shot. I was like, oh, well, I want to make this awesome sky system, right, with the stars, and I want it to be real. Like, I want it just to be like a real system where it actually is 360 degrees, it has like the fall off, and it looks exactly right. So what I did was, well, no. I didn't do it. Because I was like, what am I doing? Why don't I like just add a cross dissolve? So that's what I meant to say. Is my slide, you got to set the limits, baby. Because I was going to do this, and I would have probably spent like 2 weeks and like looking up trigonometry books and glass bottles. Look, it would have been. But after I finished the project, I went back and I did it. So here's the setup that I made. Okay, again, it's an equirectangular. Now, if I just throw, let's just throw a solid in here, because you don't really see anything below the horizon here. Okay. So you can see that it's 360. I can like move it around, and we're kind of at low resolution here, but check it out. Got a real 360 sky system. Now, what's cool about it is there's like some controls. So we can control like the haze amount. We can shift where the horizon is, so we can kind of move it up a little bit. And this is based on a Rayleigh light scattering system. And basically what it means is just like the little bit of atmospheric density creates light scattering because it's really thin that sort of like spreads out, but it actually blocks out the sun or other light sources if it's thick enough. And the way I look is reading on Wikipedia is, you know, when you're looking really far off into the distance, instead of like looking up and you're looking through a thin layer, when you're looking off into the distance, you're looking through a lot of layers across the atmosphere, and so it kind of builds up and it sort of creates this occlusion. So here's how I made it. All right. So I started with a gradient, okay? And I needed to give it like some tones of the sort of, you know, atmosphere, like sunset, sunrise tones, right? So I used a tritone effect here, and just some exposure effects to help kind of control that. And then I animated it to sort of have those tones, and then below that I have just like a bluish sky gradient. And now together they kind of create this nice kind of faded out sky look. Now the reason I built it like this is because then instead of building 4K, I can build it at like 512, and it just renders a lot faster, and then I just stretch it out for the final result because you're just saving time sometimes. And on the gradient, I have an expression set up, so let's see if this will work here. The idea is that if I move this gradient around, it changes the scale of that tritone effect. And that's basically the way that you control the size of that haze amount. So depending on if you're looking at, you know, just depending on what that day looks like, for example. And then I made an animation out of this, okay, that just goes 180 degrees, goes from dusk to sunrise up to 180 degrees, all the way to the top. And then I time remap that to a controller for this VR rotate, so that wherever this rotates, it will, if I find the sun, it will adjust the time remap of that comp so that it fades out the stars at exactly the right time. So my point is, don't do this kind of thing. It's a waste of time. You know, you always think, oh, I'll make this awesome expression, I'm going to be a genius, it'll be the greatest thing ever. Listen. it's not worth it, okay? Is what I'm trying to say. And so, you know, whatever thing you are into and whatever thing that you love doing, there's motion design, there's visual effects around that passion. And so to find that thing, to pursue it, and pursue it with a passion and with a real goal, right? You say, I want to learn how to do some form of character animation. Like, it's one thing to watch a tutorial, and then you go to do it, and you're like, oh, what was that guy's name again? I can't find that wacky tutorial. Save the good tutorials, that's what I'm saying. But do it. Spend the time and really feel like you invested in it so that you can walk away and say, hey, I did it. I understand that, like, you have to turn this on before you do that. Like, I got that part. So the next time you have to approach that thing, you'll have a real sense of doing it and not just this, you know, like, if you had, like, you know, someone, like a doctor that was going to do open heart surgery, would you want them to just watch a video first? You get what I'm saying? That's how I like to end my talks. I would say, you know, Video Copilot, we're actually turning 15 years in January. How old are we? And honestly, I would just say I'm so thankful to the entire community and everybody who's been supportive, that's watched videos, shared videos, passed them along to people. It inspires me to really dig deeper and to find some of those little things. And so I guess what I would say is, without all of you, I wouldn't be able to do this exactly the way, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. I'm Andrew Kramer.